Hello my friends, and welcome back to the shop. Today I'm doing some more prom alterations, so I thought I'd bring you along the ride. So today I'm hemming a dress that has horsehair at the bottom. So horsehair is not really made from horse's hair. It's a nylon webbing ribbon that is used at the bottom of a dress to kind of give the hem some structure, so it kind of like stands on the floor. So we're going to be hemming a dress. We got to cut off some length, so we have to deal with this horsehair. So if you need to know how to do this, stay tuned. We're going to get right into it. Here's the dress, and here is the horsehair. See, it's like a plasticky nylon webbing ribbon. So this is the wrong side, and here's the right side. So when you can see, as gravity would have it fall to the ground, and it just kind of sets on the ground, it can produce kind of a nice effect for the hem. So we have to cut it off. So I had the client try this on, and I pinned here. This was at the floor, so this is where we want the end hem to be, at these pins. So the horsehair, I need to remove it and move it up here, so then I can get rid of this fabric. So the first thing that I did is just how I do all my hems that I'm cutting off the bottom. I first just measure where these pins are so I can remove them. So this one's pretty simple. We're going to only be hemming the front and leaving the train behind intact. So right here between this side seam and this side seam is the front of the dress. And make sure you know that for sure multiple times throughout the process, that you're on the front or you're on the side or wherever you think you are on the dress. So these are our side seams and this is the front. So everywhere along the front was actually the same. We're taking in 5 inches off, and then at the side seams we're taking 4.5 inches off. And then we're going to taper that out towards the back so the train stays back there. So measuring from here just to where it would taper off, I'm getting about 18 inches. So I'm going to copy that same trailing on the other side. If I go to actually create this and it doesn't want to lay flat and behave at 18 inches, we can extend that further. We just want it to be the same on both sides. So I just wrote that down here. Front 5 inches, side seams 4.5 inches, taper over 18 inches. So that's my plan. And now I can remove these pins because I have recorded this information, so I'm going to do that. Okay, so the first thing I'm doing is I'm just going to start tearing off this horsehair. So where this is attached here, I'm just ripping all these stitches so I can get this horsehair detached. So I'm just taking my seam ripper and I'm ripping this horsehair off just along this top edge here. So where it's sewn like that, those are the stitches I'm ripping out. We'll just keep ripping until we get a little bit, quite a good bit beyond the side seams. So like here's the side seam, so I'll just keep ripping for a good while longer, more than 18 inches, so that I have enough room to play with that and move that hem to where it needs to be. Okay, so then once you get this stitch lifted, then you'll just go inside here and repeat by ripping out all the stitches that are holding the horsehair on down here. I'm still ripping, but let's talk about what we're going to do after we get this off. So we have our horsehair, and then these pins indicate the line where the client would like the hem to be. So if you wanted a more clear line, you could draw an actual line on here with some kind of erasable marker, but I'm just going to follow my pins for that line. So that's where she wants the dress to end. So we have our horsehair, and if we inspect how this was put together. So it was up here like this. It was stitched at the top. We ripped that out. And we open it up. Now we're ripping out down here. So you can see it's attached like this. So the horsehair is placed going like the wrong way. It's not down here at the bottom. It's going up. And it's on the right side, the outside of the garment. So you put the horsehair there where you want it to be, and then you flip it flip it, come up here, and stitch it again. So where we want the dress to end at these pins, we'll take the horsehair and we'll arrange it right where we want it to be, like that. Now, is that going to be where it actually ends? No, because where you stitch it onto the horsehair, there's, you know, that little bit of seam allowance there that you're going to lose. So whatever you choose your seam allowance to be, this looks like a 1/4 inch or maybe 3/8 right there. That much further down from the stitch is where the dress will truly end. The dress will end right where the horsehair ends. So, and then as you roll it around, you might even lose an additional 1/8 of an inch, just depending on the thickness of your fabric, just so it can make that bend to get back around. So wherever we want this to end, we'll place the horsehair there. Okay, so let's say I want it to end at that green pin, so right there. But if I sewed, then my 1/4 inch seam allowance would be up here, so then the dress would be a touch shorter than desired. So we're going to move it down about a 1/4 inch below where you want it to really be, so that you're stitching on the line. So you're stitching right where you want it to be, or possibly even an 1/8 of an inch lower, because you might lose that little bit of an 1/8 of an inch as the fabric wraps around the edge of the horsehair. So you're just going to position it a little bit below where you want it, and then pin it on, and then our first stitch will be taken right here. So I'm going to finish ripping, and then we'll do that. Alright, so I'm done ripping. So you'll have to rip just a little bit more of the stitch along the top. You'll have to go a little further than the one along the bottom, because we have to be able to flick this all the way up. So back here where we had not ripped, where that stitch is, we need to be able to open this up so that it's just laying there on the right side or outside of the garment. Okay, so it's laying there as though we were the ones sewing this on, so we're just going to pick up where they left off. So I'm going to stick a pin here. Try to hold that down. It's going to want to flop everywhere. Okay, so here's our side seam, and here is our line of where we want the dress to end at these pins. And then we said we wanted it to trail off 18 inches from the side seam. It's just trailing off the back, and we have an 18-inch roller here. So I'm going to line up the edge of the roller with that pin, and then wherever it goes off the edge, so right here, so this is where this is going to trail off. So I'm just going to put a little pin right here to mark this. I'm going to unfold this. So then what we're going to do is take our horsehair, and so down here it's pretty much aligned with the edge of the fabric. Well, it does have a little seam allowance, so the actual fabric is probably a seam allowance of about 1/2 of an inch, but then only half of that is the horsehair. So they did that so it would have that to wrap around. So we're going to just bring the horsehair up like this, and I'm going to pin. And I'm going to bring the horsehair basically along the edge of this roller. And pin it on. And we're just going to come all the way up here. So be careful not to stretch it, because then it'll, you know, affect the way the fabric lays. So just gently lay it. Okay, and then as we come over here to where these pins are, same thing. The horsehair is just going to be right there. Now, I just did that real quick to get it laid in position, but remember, it needs to come up, or down. It needs to come down so that the actual stitching line is where you want it to end, if not a little bit below. So now everywhere that I did this, I'm going to take it down, and I'm going to just probably eyeball it, because I know what that amount of a seam allowance looks like, about 1/4 inch. I'm going to move it down, but you could measure it if you wanted to be more exact. So here was the line where it needed to be. I'm going to move that and just move it down about 1/4 inch. Okay, so I came across the front here, and now we're going to do the same thing from side seam down. We're going to taper it 18 inches. So I got it up here, and I got my 18-inch ruler. So I'm just going to take it to where it goes off the edge, right at the 18, and that's going to be where we have this trail off. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that with a pin right here, and then bring the horsehair down. So just about 1/4 inch. Well, it'll be in the same spot there. So then pretty much just, oops, that has too much extra slack. We gotta work our way over. So pretty much just right where the roller is, but then going down about 1/4 inch. And this has a 1/4 inch marking on it, so I'm just lining up that horsehair with that. I'm just gonna pin that on. And be careful not to stretch it like I was there. That will make your dress lay weird. Just let it be relaxed. Okay, so that's that. So this will make the dress shorter, so we'll stitch it on here, and then we'll be able to cut this, and then we'll be able to flip this all up, and then do that other stitch up top here. There's a high likelihood that when you make it all the way around, you will be left with extra horsehair. And that is because we're taking away from the fullness of the dress as we take from the length. So now there's extra horsehair that we don't need. So we have to get rid of this. So there's a few ways you could do it. So I have it pinned all the way up and all the way up this way. I could just take it and I could just lay it down like that. And that's probably what I'm gonna do, because I could cut it and stitch it here, but I don't think the extra bulk of it laying there is going to be bad. So I'm just going to do that. I'm just going to lay it down and pin it on, and I'm just going to stitch, and I think that'll be just fine. I don't think that's going to change the way it is. And what I could do just to be sure is before I sew it down, probably be best to stitch these, like stitch through horsehair only and horsehair only, just so these big round things can lay down and behave. So if you didn't want to do it that way, you could cut and then you could just overlap and then you could just stitch and then stitch again. But I think I'm just going to do that there. And then I can avoid any chance of it unraveling or anything like that. So that will actually be the first thing I do before I even stitch down this line that we just pinned. Alright, I'm here at the sewing machine. I have a matching color thread in the top and in the bobbin. So I'm just going to use my straight stitch and I'm going to sew those two things down. So I'll have to remove the pin so it's detached from the dress for a second. And I'll just put that pin there. I'm just going to go over this edge so it's not all round and causing a disruption in the shape of the dress. Okay, so I'm just going to start right about here and start with a back stitch. And then just go forward. And with a back stitch. Maybe I'll just take it all the way back for extra security. Alright. Take that out and cut the threads, and then we have the other edge over here. That we just need to make that go down, so I'll just remove that pin so I can get to it. And same thing, just gonna slide this in here and smash that down. Start with a back stitch, and go forward, and just back it over. Alright, that should do it. cut it. Okay. So there, that's what we created. Now it's just flat like the rest of the horsehair. I got a little messed up, but that's fine. It's okay because it's on the top edge. It's not going to disturb the way it wraps, and even if it did, it wouldn't be that noticeable. Okay. So now we're just going to pin that back down along the bottom edge here, and then we're going to do that stitch all the way across. For this part, I'm going to lengthen my stitch from our normal 2.5 to about 3, and that's going to let it cover more area more quickly, and also the stitch will lay more smoothly. So now we're going to start sewing where you can see where their line still existed before your ripping started happening. So we want to overlap their old line by just a little bit. So here we go. And we're just trying to stitch this on with about a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So if I keep the edge of that horsehair aligned with just a little bit beyond the edge of my presser foot here, then it'll be about a 1/4 inch in, and that's what we want. We're about to run over our little flap that we made and get into the real area where we're taking length off the dress. So if yours is like mine and that there was a train and we trailed off the edge, this will be the point where it actually starts to come away from the edge. And you're just going to do the same thing, just keep sewing on the horsehair with that 1/4 inch seam. You can see it's starting to come up into the dress here. And now we're stitching on what should be the line where you want the dress to end. We're approaching that first side seam, so now we're going to be into the front panel of the dress. There's our side seam, so that's the front panel's done. Now we're going to be trailing off again. Here we are. You can see we're coming back down to where we were with having the horsehair at the bottom. Almost done. Okay, and we've met up with the old original stitch. So everything is now attached. I'm going to end with a back stitch. And take that out. So here's what we got. This is the front of the dress. So we have our horsehair that's up here, and it trails off, and which would go to the back of the train. So now we just have to cut off this excess fabric. So remember how it was down here. They left some fabric. So they didn't cut the fabric all the way up to the horsehair. They left about 1/4 inch for the wraparound. So if you need to use some kind of measuring device, and you could even draw a line all the way across, measuring 1/4 inch from the edge of that horsehair, then you could cut on that. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm just going to eyeball. Okay, so I'm just taking my scissors and I'm gonna go just about 1/4 inch to the left of where that is, where that horsehair ends. Okay, so that is done. So now you can see how nice this is going to look. It's just going to fold in on it. It's just going to wrap around itself like that and create that nice structured hem. So we just have to make sure it's all wrapped it's straight. It's not like going like this. We just got to go all the way around, make sure it's nice and wrapped straight. It's not down like this. So it's actually wrapped up around the horsehair like that, tight. So where the horsehair is actually at the bottom. So we just want to get that all situated, and then we're going to press it on, and then we'll do that final stitch right here. And then if we peek inside, you can see, looks nice how it wraps around. Looks good. So I'll just start wrapping and pinning. Okay, and then we just keep pinning until we get to the original seam that was unripped by us. Okay, I'm all pinned up and ready to sew, so I'm going to slide this in, and I'm going to start where some stitches already were. So here's where they had sewn, and that's where I stopped ripping. So I'm going to start right where they left off. Go right over their stitches with a back stitch and then go forward. And so now I'm doing about 1/4 inch from the top edge of this horsehair. And we're just going to go all the way. And I'm being careful to keep pushing it this way because I want that horsehair to maintain its edge here. I don't ever want it to be like pulling away where a new like edge forms here that doesn't have horsehair in it, if that makes sense. So I'm just always kind of pushing the horsehair to the left to make sure it's really putting pressure on that edge hem. Back at the beginning. You can see there's the stitches that were the original stitches, so I'm just going to overlap them by at least like 1/2 inch and then backstitch. Alright, so let's take this out. And cut. Okay, and you can see it looks awesome. So the last thing I'm going to do is take this up to the ironing board and give it a little press just to crisp up the edge down here, and also to try to get rid of some of these holes that were left from the ripping that we had to do in the redoing. Okay, I'm up at the ironing board and I'm going to be using a pressing cloth because this is a synthetic material that might melt, and the horsehair is definitely synthetic and might melt. So I have my iron, I'm going to turn it down a little bit, and I'm only going to press it through this cloth. So I'm going to press it, I'm going to let that fabric get hot, and then I'm going to take my clapper and just give some pressure while it's still hot. And you can see how nice and crisp that clapper makes the seam. It's just gives it that final polished touch, that perfect crisp hem. So if you've never used a tailor's clapper for your ironing, they're great for quilting, they're great for garments, anything where you press. It's just a unfinished piece of hardwood, and the heat and moisture is absorbed into the wood as you apply pressure while it's still hot, and it just makes it crazy crisp. You wouldn't think that it would be such a game changer, but it really truly is. And pretty much anytime I'm ironing, I have that clapper following. You can get these on our website. They are made by a local guy named John Quimby. He's awesome, and he makes them out of all kinds of exotic wood and makes them look cool, leaves the little details intact. And we love him. So that's about it, guys, for just the horsehair hem. That's pretty much all we need to do. So this dress also does have a lining, so if you would like to watch how to deal with the lining part of the dress, you can watch my video from a few weeks ago. I think it's called Hem a Formal Dress with Me, and you'll see it. It's a picture of me and I'm hemming a purple dress with sequins, and I go over how to do the lining on that one. So I'm going to be doing that to finish this dress up before I call the client, but that's all you have to do that outer hem that has the horsehair. So I really hope this was helpful to you guys, and I would love if you could leave me a comment below with any thoughts that you have about it. Just comments. Just leave a comment and say, hi, I'm watching. Maybe just tell me if you have a project like this coming up, and if you need to know how to do anything else while we're at it. If there's other parts of the dress you need to alter and you have questions, or just anything you want to say. I love to hear from you guys.